ID, please.
That is being racist.
Thank you.
The internet hasn't stopped buzzing, Mildred, since American Eagle launched that provocative slogan, Sydney Sweeney has great genes. The classic play on words between jeans and jeans unleashed an avalanche of social media content, with users analyzing every frame of the ad. From that moment on, the debate polarized. Is it an innocent compliment to a great pair of pants, or an elitist nod to the right genetics? Today, we'll explore both perspectives of this controversy. Let's begin. All right, let's start by going over the critics' arguments. They see it as a clear case of disguised white supremacy. From their perspective, the problem is obvious. The ad shows an Aryan woman talking about genetic heritage and saying things like,
genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
In that last line, my genes are blue, she clearly draws an intentional link between her blue eyes and her blue genes. And on top of that, a voiceover says she has great genes. Critics don't see this as an innocent coincidence, Mildred. They read the message as problematic because it ties Aryan beauty to the idea of having great genes. That's where the outrage comes from. They feel the ad celebrates certain traits as superior under the cover of a simple pun. Why does it make them so uncomfortable? Because in U.S. history, talking about great genes brings back very dark times. A century ago, there were government programs designed specifically to improve the population by preventing certain people, mainly non-white individuals, from having children. That horrific practice was known as eugenics. In today's political climate, seeing a blonde actress talk about genetic heritage doesn't land in a vacuum. Terms like genes or offspring may sound neutral in biology, but in advertising or marketing, they can function as dog whistles when paired with Aryan beauty stereotypes. This conversation is happening while debates over identity, immigration, and conspiracies like the Great Replacement, rejected by the academic community, are still running hot in the U.S., which lowers the tolerance for any wink that seems to suggest supremacy. Critics also point out the contradiction that Sydney has taken part in ads that clearly capitalize on her sexualized image, like the famous soap in the bathtub commercial,
"Hello, you dirty little boys,"
and the Baskin-Robbins campaign. While in interviews, she has said she dislikes being sexualized and has openly criticized that kind of attention. Add to that the controversy over the 2022 photos from a family event where some guests wore caps resembling MAGA hats with the slogan, "Make 60 Great Again." Although technically not MAGA, the nearly identical design strongly suggests pro-Trump sympathies. That impression is reinforced by Trump's explicit support for Sydney.
If Sydney Sweeney is a registered Republican, I think her ad is fantastic. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
And the leak showing she's registered as a Republican voter in Florida. To be clear, she's free to hold whatever political views she wants. Critics argue, however, that these perceived alignments, taken together, paint a pattern in her political leanings and the audience she appeals to, which is why they read the ad as intentionally signaling white supremacist intent. They also argue that if the goal was to make a jeans pun, the campaign should have featured beautiful women of different races, each saying, "I have great genes." In that scenario, the great genes line would be justified by their beauty, not their ethnicity, since all of them would be equally attractive regardless of racial background. Then the camera could pull back to reveal they were actually talking about the jeans they were wearing. But when you feature only a blonde woman talking about passing on her physical traits, that's where things start to feel weird. On the other hand, people who support Sydney see the whole controversy as overblown and pointless. To them, it's just a play on words in an ad campaign, and tying it to white supremacy is taking sensitivity to a ridiculous extreme. Supporters insist that American Eagle sells genes, not ideologies, and say it's a commercial campaign aimed at college students, not a political manifesto. They also argue the outrage doesn't match reality, pointing out that some woke folks call everything Nazi. And to be fair, many on the right do the same thing in reverse, calling anything they disagree with woke. In short, there's a lot of polarization. They also point out that Sydney didn't come up with the slogan. She just acted in the ad and note American Eagle's stock price, which rose 23.6%, then dropped 9.5%, and has fluctuated since, while noting the stock has stayed steady overall. In their view, that suggests most people didn't see anything offensive. Some defenders say the criticism of Sydney comes from envy, but that argument, that every critique stems from jealousy, applies to almost anything and often just avoids the debate. By that logic, you couldn't criticize Mr. Beast because you'd just be envying his money and fame, or James Charles because you'd be envying his talent, or Amber Heard because you'd be envying her looks. Well, maybe you don't envy him at all. At the end of the day, companies have only one real goal: to maximize profits. They're neither racist nor progressive out of conviction. They just follow the flow of the money. For this reason, they tend to navigate carefully according to the political winds of the moment. Take Mark Zuckerberg. With Donald Trump's arrival at the White House, he said that his company would end the inclusion policy. He also claimed that companies need more masculine energy to be more aggressive.
I don't know. There's something, the kind of masculine energy, I think, is good. And obviously, society has plenty of that, but I think corporate culture was really like trying to get away from it. And I do think that there's just something, it's like, I don't know, all these forms of energy are good. And I think having a culture that like celebrates the aggression a bit more has its own merits that are really positive.
From there, other companies also trimmed similar initiatives. Ford and Lowe's stopped participating in the Corporate Equality Index and announced cuts to DEI policies. Walmart began shutting down its Center for Racial Equity. Clearly, many brands are recalibrating their policies and marketing toward a more conservative political climate, carefully to avoid the extremes. Paradoxical as it may sound, American Eagle knows all too well that being seen by most Americans as a eugenics brand would be enormously damaging. Although there are still small supremacist groups, most Americans don't buy into those silly ideas, Mildred. According to a 2017 study, the vast majority of people believe all races should be treated the same. However, a not-so-small share, around a third, feels some affinity with the idea of protecting white European heritage, whether because they openly support it or because it doesn't bother them much. In short, most don't see themselves as superior, but there is a segment that does show sympathy for that kind of framing. This actually shows things aren't as polarized as they feel. Offline, most people hold mixed views and still agree on basic fairness. Online, the debate flattens everything into a binary. Either you're all in or all out, and the algorithms boost the loudest extremes, making the middle look smaller than it is, Mildred. And here's the key point. Many Americans, even on the right, obviously aren't genuine supremacists. Let's look at the Republican Party. J.D. Vance, Trump's bestie, is married to a woman of Indian descent, and this guy is of Cuban descent. In short, for American Eagle, associating itself with a supremacist message simply makes no commercial or social sense. This is crystal clear in American Eagle's reaction after the scandal. A few days after the controversy blew up, they rushed out an Instagram post trying to clarify that it was all about jeans, not jeans. And they threw in the absurd line, "her jeans, her story," which honestly has no logical connection, but they swear they ate. In their boardroom, it sounded deep. Afterwards, they posted shots with models of different ethnicities, an Asian girl, black girls, a video with a girl who seems to be Latina, but I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, none of this is a coincidence. It's a kind of damage control. But if they didn't want to associate with supremacist ideas, why launch an ad that could be interpreted that way? Basically, they were trying to become relevant again, be part of the conversation, and get on the good side of the new administration. And at least for now, it seems to be working. Before this, who was talking about American Eagle? You might be wondering. Relevant, sure, but remembered as a brand that promotes supremacism? Here's the trick. By winking at the Republican audience, they keep that side calm, even if they continue posting diverse messages. In fact, you can find in the comments on their posts featuring non-blonde models that the same Republicans say things like they also have great genes. And at the same time, American Eagle can tell the people who got upset that they don't promote supremacism.
Her genes, her story.
And prove it through their diverse posts. That way, the angry crowd will probably end up forgiving the brand gradually. Or maybe not. Or maybe only part of them. Time will tell. Let me know what you think about this in the comments, Mildred.